Hello, I am Walid Oulmane, Head of Ports and Global Industrialization. I joined BlueFloat 1 year ago after 10 years working on the offshore wind market for GE and SBM on the development of the global supply chain and ports as well. My current role could be summarized on 3 strategic topics: supply chain, ports, and logistics. The first one is the development of the global supply chain for the fabrication of the floating platforms. The second one is the development of the port strategy for the execution of our projects. It could be a one-stop hub dedicated or covering all the operations from the fabrication to the turbine integrations and commissioning, or a multi-port approach where each port is dedicated for one operation. The last one, logistics, is covering all the handling and lifting operation, including the mobilization of the heavy equipment. During the last 10 years, I was quite lucky to be part of big companies like GE and SBM. I had the opportunity to be part of major projects worldwide, like the first offshore wind project in US, Block Island, or more specifically on the port development, I was part from the early development of the Dogger Bank project, which is the biggest offshore wind project in the world. And then I moved to SBM offshore, and it was quite challenging for me since I was for the first time part on the early development of ports and supply chain. Now for the floating projects, I was part of the industrialization team and working jointly with the engineering team on the development of floating platforms adapted for mass production. Being part of the offshore wind floating, it's quite unique. Achieve the industrialization level is critical if we want to meet our objectives and the market's expectations, which are a 10 gigawatt of floating platforms deployed by 2030. My role is to elaborate a strategy to move the supply chain from pilot projects deployed today to a mass production to be deployed in the coming few years. Like any other market, the supply chain players are expecting from us 2 main parameters: market visibility and volumes. As a developer, it's our responsibility to give the maximum of visibility to the supply chain players. For example, what are our preferred technologies? Where are the first projects? How can we imagine an early commitment or a strategic partnership with the supply chain players? We are talking about hundreds of millions investment needed to secure new manufacturing capabilities. Working jointly with the fabricators, it's critical to secure this investment. An early commitment could give to the supply chain players a first signal that the market is ready, and the strategic partnership could give them much more confidence on our commitment on a long-term partnership. We are facing 3 major challenges for the development of the floating offshore wind industry. First, too many floating platforms in the market. Second, limited numbers of fabricators. Third, the size of the turbine. On the first one, we have more than 120 platforms in the market, and it's quite challenging and almost impossible to develop a supply chain dedicated for each platform. On the top of that, we have a few and limited numbers of fabricators with enough of manufacturing capabilities to cover the future projects. And then the size of the turbines are becoming bigger and bigger, increasing the pressure on the manufacturing capabilities. It's why within BlueFloat we prefer to focus our energy on the development of the supply chain for the most promising floating platforms. Before talking about the strategy, we need first to align about the target. Let's agree on the 1 floater per week expected by the market by 2030. And then the choice of the technology. Within BlueFloat, we believe that we need both still and concrete technologies to cover the market demand. Definitively, fabricators should be aligned to achieve this target, and within BlueFloat we are working on it. We have to keep in mind that the floating offshore wind is a new market. Becoming a country leader in this new market should be a strategic decision from the authorities at the first stage. A strong support is needed from the government to achieve this ambition. It's first a country ambition before to be a developer strategy. The ports available today in the markets are not enough. As we are moving the major operations from offshore to onshore, we are increasing the strategic position of the ports in our global supply chain. We are working closely with a few ports and local authorities to unlock the massive investment in the infrastructures. The ports' challenges are the same everywhere, but different strategies could be developed based on public and private partnership.